Let's get more on this. We're joined from Oman, Ali Abuminah, co-founder of Electronic Intifada and the author of One Country in the Battle for Justice in Palestine. Many thanks for speaking to us on Al Jazeera. What's your reaction to what's going on in East Jerusalem?
Well, it's first of all horrific to see Israel once again deciding to try to redeem its humiliation in Jerusalem by killing Palestinians, particularly children, more than nine children among 24 dead in Gaza due to Israeli attacks targeting residential homes, among many other sites. And let's recall what happened, that Israel thought that it could impose its will on the people of occupied East Jerusalem by mounting an unprovoked assault on worshippers at Al-Aqsa Mosque in order to crush Palestinian resistance in the city and allow settlers to force their way through occupied East Jerusalem, as they often do, chanting death to the Arabs and Muhammad is dead. But what happened yesterday in Jerusalem was Israel suffered a humiliating defeat when Palestinian popular resistance, without the support of any governments, without the support of the Palestinian Authority, condemned by the world, defeated Israel, forced them to cancel the settler march, and is continuing to resist the ethnic cleansing in Sheikh Jarrah. Israel also miscalculated, yes.
Do you think Hamas was justified in their rocket fire last night?
I think what Hamas and the other resistance factions were trying to say to Israel is, do not think you can attack Jerusalem and attack Palestinians in the West Bank and count on the resistance not to respond to you. So that was a major strategic miscalculation by Israel, because they thought that we can do as we please because we've divided the Palestinian people. There are little bits of them in the West Bank, little bits of them in Gaza, and Hamas and the other resistance factions won't dare to respond to us whatever we do.
It does, though, change.
Miscalculation by Israel.
Sorry to interrupt you again, but it does change the narrative, doesn't it, from Palestinian worshippers being fired upon in a holy Muslim place to Israel has the right to defend itself?
Well, it only changes the narrative if that's the narrative you choose to adopt. The correct narrative, and the one that we should adopt because it's true, is that Palestinians, an occupied people in the face of a nuclear-armed state, armed by the United States, the European Union, and in alliance with Arab dictatorships, is what Palestinians are facing. And Palestinians have an absolute right to exercise their right to resistance and self-defense as any occupied people. And I hear people saying, oh, well, Palestinians shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. That's very easy to lecture Palestinians if you're not the one in the firing line, if you're not the ones being attacked by occupation forces in your holy sites, if you're not the ones being expelled from your homes so that death-chanting Israeli Jewish settlers can take your place. And if you're not the one who, time after time, year after year in Gaza, is watching your children being killed by F-16s and US-supplied missiles and warplanes. So the Palestinians have a right to self-defense and resistance, and there is absolutely no moral equivalence whatsoever between a nuclear-armed apartheid regime attacking and killing and oppressing the people it's occupying and displacing, and on the other hand, those people resisting with the means they have. I mean, it's funny, there's lots of people who say, oh, well, Palestinians shouldn't fire rockets. Well, I haven't seen the European Union or the United States providing Palestinians with precision-guided missiles so they can precisely target Israeli military bases. And the same people who object to any form of military resistance by Palestinians also object to nonviolent resistance like boycott, divestment, and sanctions. So people who quibble like that and who find excuses to condemn an occupied people for resisting are people who would like Palestinians to die quietly while Israel does what it wants to them. And I include in that especially the Arab regimes and dictatorships who celebrated their marriage to Israel's occupation and apartheid regime over what they thought was the dead body of the Palestinian cause. And what we've seen again is no matter how much these corrupt dictatorships and the European Union and Canada and the United States unite to try to crush the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian people are determined to win their freedom, and that's what we're seeing. They will fight back with their bare hands, as they did in Al-Aqsa, and with whatever means they have to preserve their existence against the Zionist state that is bent and has been bent on their destruction since 1948.
Ali Abuminah, thank you for your thoughts. Co-founder of Electronic Intifada and author of One Country in the Battle for Justice in Palestine.